All right, today we have Kaelem Tingate with Big Red Moonshine YouTube channel with us, and he's come on just to do a little interview, and we're just going to have a little conversation about what he's doing and all of that. So, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Cyrus?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I ran across your YouTube channel a couple weeks back, and for the listeners and viewers, you may not know this. We've already done this interview once, and it was great. And we had a conversation for about 45 minutes. All went well, and then I realized I had never pushed the record button, so we're doing it again.
We're
And
back here a week later, giving it another shot,
right,
right?
right, yeah,
Let's
and
hope it
and
goes as well as the first time.
right, and my audience who knows me, they're like, yeah, I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
that's that's how Cyrus rolls. Anyway, so yeah, I loved your YouTube channel. You do a really good job with your editing, which is something that stood out to me. And most of us, there's a couple other folks in the moonshine niche of YouTube that do a great job with editing and all that, but most of us are just kind of winging it like me. I do what I can with the editing, but yeah, you do a really great job. I really like your videos. So are you just kind of self-taught? You just kind of figured that stuff out, or you had any kind of education?
Yeah. So I it's mostly just self-taught. It was more of a thing where it was like I think those are a lot of the videos that I've seen do well on social media in a lot of ways, where it's in the day of short form content, like low attention span. Everybody kind of in what catches people is the quick, short, like always just something new. And so that's kind of what I was looking to go for, just because that's what I've seen do well, right? And then also
Yeah,
this way with the shorter, more fast editing, I don't have to be right and like get a good first take. I can cut up a couple clips, and let's say I'm just rambling, I can cut up a conversation with myself to seem like I said everything intentionally. So
yeah,
it just makes it a lot easier in the recording process for me. But it's just I think it catches people's attention, right?
yeah, for sure, for sure. And your latest video, which depending on when you're watching or listening to this, may not be the latest video for sure, but you did a video on cleaning your fermenter. And one of the things I noticed when you're clipping from one clip to the next, you're having this, continuous conversation, but you're wearing something different all the time. Was that
Yeah, so
intentional? Like that was
that was
really
not
funny.
intentional. That was
I liked it.
actually in the original recording for that. I actually mentioned it, and I was saying, "Hey, don't mind the costume change." But then I took it out because I didn't think it helped with the flow of the video. But yeah, so let's say I've got like 30 minutes. I'll record a bit of it, and then the next day I'm like, I could put on the same outfit again to make it look like it's cohesive, but I'm like, I don't really care that much because it's always like a
Right.
new section anyways, right?
Well, I mean, I liked it. And it's one of those things like you were talking about keeping someone's attention. Like you're like, wait, what is he wearing now? Like, I don't know.
Perfect. Boost
It
the
caught
watch
my eye and I
time.
liked it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So, for those listening, if you haven't checked out Big Red Moonshine YouTube channel, go check it out. It's fairly new, few months old, like I don't know,
I
not a
think
year old, 6 or 9 months.
yeah, I've only really been posting since I think it would have been April then I think maybe would have been my first video, but I didn't really start posting semi regularly till about August.
Yeah. Okay.
Around there, I think, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So go check out his videos, give him a subscribe, and you'll be glad you did. Some good videos over there. And I noticed you did a lot of rum stuff. And
Yep.
in our last conversation, you kind of went over that. Would you mind doing that again? Why there's so much rum stuff on your channel at the
Absolutely.
moment?
So I find rum for me was one of the easiest things to make starting out. That wasn't like an imitation because you have a lot of guys out here making the classic kind of like whiskey sugar shine. And I didn't really feel right about that for some reason at first. I was like, I want to come in and be making something that's more authentic. And to me, a rum, at the end of the day, you don't really need a ton of skill for it. You're just boiling the sugar, same as a sugar mash, right? Like any
Right.
type of sugar shine, but you're making a proper rum still, and not just like an imitation rum like you do with corn and sugar, like a
Right.
whiskey, right?
Right.
And so I took a hold of that, really enjoyed the flavors that I was getting out of it. And I thought the whole idea of keeping the dunder and getting a dunder pick going with different bacteria was super interesting. And so I just kind of stuck with it because it's what I knew. And I think I've done maybe 7 or 8 total runs of rum over the past like year and a half. And that was the biggest reason, where it was just what I was making at the time when I started recording all the videos, right?
Right. Right. Well, and technically speaking, if you're using cane sugar to make a sugar wash, you've made rum.
Yeah.
Like that's exact, if you look at how rum is defined, it's basically made with any byproducts from cane. So, I didn't know that until like last year. And I think it was somebody on a TikTok video was describing what classifies a rum. But then again,
Yeah.
I see, and I've said this a lot of times, we're moonshiners. It's illegal anyway. So
Yeah.
to
Why are we
say
making
we
rules
need to,
on it?
yeah, to
Yeah.
say we're going to follow these rules, it's like by definition, we're really not rule followers anyway. So,
Yeah. Little
but
hypocritical there. Yeah. I get what you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I made a bourbon with sweet potato, not really bourbon by the technical sense, but tasted just like bourbon anyway. So yeah, what got you into making moonshine? How did you end up taking that path?
Well, it's a funny story. It's a bit of a weird one. It was high school. Me and my buddy were sat in, I think it was history class, and we were joking. We were like, wouldn't it be funny if we like made some wine and kind of cheersed it at the end of the year? But the whole joke of it was that we'd make the wine in the school, and on the final day of school, we drink the wine together. And we ended up making the wine. We stored it in those roof tiles that you can kind of lift up. And so it was in the roof of the school, hidden in like the rafters. It ended up getting found, actually. I don't think I mentioned that last time we talked. But I put my phone number on it. I wrote, if found, call to, like, just call my phone number. And the vice principal ended up calling me. I never noticed the call. But at the end of the year, I was talking to her, and she's like, you never picked up my call when I called you to like try and talk to you about your wine I found in the roof of the school. Or like one of the custodians found it or something, I think.
Yeah,
And
unlikely
so,
that she actually found it, but yeah.
yeah, I think one of the custodians found it and took it to her. But it was funny, and it just kind of making that wine kind of got me to start to research about the whole hobby, and then eventually find home distilling from winemaking. And from that, the rest was history. I bought a little 20-liter pot still off Amazon, and just eventually moved up to a 50-liter keg, and it's just kind of fell in love with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a good path to take, like from brewing or winemaking to distilling. I didn't take that path. So there's a lot of things you learn with wine and beer that is, I don't know, I'm not sure I want to say unnecessary, but the things you learn with wine and beer are helpful for distilling. So, like for example, your last video of how to clean a fermenter, like I'm, I don't worry a whole lot about sanitization, and with wine and beer, you have to, like it's critical.
Yeah,
But with distilling, it's not critical. So you came from this path where those things were critical, and that'll make sure you keep things clean moving forward. You know.
totally. And to be fair, when I distill, I don't really clean much, especially depending on what I'm making. If I'm doing a rum, honestly, I give it a quick rinse with the hose, scrub out any like chunky bits, and then
Yeah.
dump it. And like that's really all. Because if I'm going rum to rum, it doesn't really matter,
Yeah.
because you like some bacteria in there anyways, right? Like that's what's giving you the weird kind of funky off flavors.
Yeah, that lacto infection, you don't want to miss out on that.
Exactly. Same with a bit of strep or anything else you're getting in there.
Well, it's what's like, I don't mess with sanitization unless I want to try a new yeast. Like
Yeah.
I don't want contamination from yeasts I've used in the past in that fermenter messing with a new something I'm trying that's new, and I want to see what I get from it. Other than that, I don't. And I've heard stories about um, the old timers using wooden barrels for fermentation and wooden paddles for stirring their mash that would actually inoculate the ferment because
Interesting. Just like
because
so many
those that
generations of yeast. Yeah.
right, yeah. Now, and I've also had it happen where I've had ferments kick off without adding yeast, and sometimes that's because of wild yeast, and I think sometimes it may be because all I did is rinse out my fermenter the time before. I'm not
Probably still
sure.
got some yeast hanging around in there. Yeah.
Right.
I
So
see, I don't mess around with a lot of different yeasts, and part of that's just because most of the yeast that I was getting was from my local brew store, which like they didn't really have a ton. They had a few little stuff, but it was more for beer varieties, while their distilling yeast was pretty limited.
yeah, same here. And this I've taken over the local brew shop, but it was all like ale yeast and like you're saying, mostly beer yeast. Did have some champagne yeasts, which a lot of people will use for shine, but you know, no daddy yeast or whiskey yeast or
No,
rum yeast, that kind of stuff.
I was pretty much exclusively using either turbo or like EC 1118.
Yeah, I like the EC 1118 myself. I
Yeah, it's
always used
simple.
it with fruit. Anytime I'm using fruit, I use that one. Most
I find it's good. Just yeah, because it doesn't like turbo yeast. You can get some weird off flavors, is what I've heard from a lot of people. Well, EC 1118, I haven't heard about anybody getting off flavors. It's normally just a pretty neutral yeast, right?
right. It's yeah, I still haven't used any turbo yeast, and I keep saying I'm going to try it, and I still haven't done it. But I've heard the same things, like the off flavors from a turbo yeast, which is
I haven't
probably
experienced
why.
anything like personally. I haven't noticed it. It might just
Yeah,
be that I don't really know what to look for. But depending on what you're making, there's so many other flavors in there, and you're distilling it, right? So much of that just gets covered up and kind of like stripped out.
yeah. And I'm the kind of person that I don't have a terribly sensitive palate anyway, so a lot of flavors are not going to be noticed by me.
Yep.
And where some people have, like my wife is very sensitive, like she can pick up on all kinds of flavors that I just, that's why I'm not really good at like describing the flavor of something I've made. Like when I try to describe it on video, it's useless. It's like, yeah, I like it, or no, I don't like it. Pretty much,
You're like
most of the
you're
time.
like tastes like whiskey. That's
Right,
the extent. Do you
right.
think that that's from distilling a little bit? Like that you maybe stripped out your nose
Maybe.
buds and your taste buds?
Yeah, it could be like decades of heavy drinking too as a youngster.
Yeah. Or even just the alcohol fumes there can't be good for your nostrils, right?
Right. Yeah. But you watch someone like, Jesse on Still It, or the two guys that have the whiskey channel, Whiskey Tribe or something,
Yep.
and they're so good at describing the flavor notes and what it is on the nose and all this. And I'm like, I don't know. I can't
Do you
figure
think they're
that out.
bullshitting a little bit there? It's like, really?
I don't know.
How are you getting like flower blossom out of a thing of liquor there? Like,
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, my palate is not sensitive, so I can't call bullshit on it. But
I'm just kidding. I think it's 100% those flavors are there. I'm just not. I haven't experienced enough to pick them up, or I don't have a good enough palate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen classes on the internet that you can take that are supposed to teach you how to pick up these different flavors and everything. I've considered taking one of those classes. Haven't done it yet. Still might though, just to
totally.
see.
Might even help the videos there. Then you can get the extra like 2 minutes of you going, yeah, this tastes amazing. Like it's got this flavor, this flavor, this flavor.
Yeah,
But I I'm not even a big drinker to begin with, so I don't really I just like making it. It
yeah,
was drinking it was never the intention. I know some people get into it because they're tired of buying the overpriced, overtaxed alcohol and just going, "Hey, I'm gonna make it myself for a little bit cheaper." But I never honestly, most of the stuff I make gets given away as like Christmas gifts and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. I'm no longer a heavy drinker. I was There was a time when I was a really heavy drinker, and now it's pretty rare for me to drink much at all. I drink probably more in a month just tasting while I'm running the still, just with my finger and doing
Totally.
videos. That's probably 90% of my drinking now.
Yeah, I am in university, so I don't know if I can say that anymore, but it's still pretty. I'm still not a big drinker compared to a lot of other people that are especially like in the hobby, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And for me it was an income for a long time too, like which is no it's a different kind of income for me now, that the website and YouTube channel and all that. But there was a time when uh bootlegging was a thing for us.
Totally. And I think that there's something really cool about that because I haven't sold a ton of it. It was it was always just kind of gifts and just kind of a fun thing. But I think eventually I would like to make an income off of it. I think I not necessarily go professional, maybe eventually get to a point with YouTube that I can, or even just to a point where maybe in the next 5 years working for another distillery.
Yeah.
I think making money somewhere in the liquor industry, whether it's professional or not, is something I'm super interested in.
Yeah. There's a lot of folks going into the legal distilling world from the moonshine world nowadays, especially in the States anyway. Lots of craft distilleries popping up all over the place. And a lot of moonshiners going legit.
Yep. We don't quite have that in Canada because we're a little more restricted on how like all the licensing for opening a distillery and stuff. They make it pretty easy for like wineries and breweries. So you see a ton of microbreweries and these wineries pop up everywhere, but you don't see a ton of distilleries just because you need such a big like just initial money up front for it, which makes it
Mm-hmm.
really hard for any micro distillery to get started. Like even just the licensing, you need I
Yeah.
think a minimum of $5,000 down to say that you're going to pay the taxes on it, and then you're paying so much taxes on it that it's not even worth it for a lot of the guys.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of regulations and restrictions there are here. I know the barrier to entry is pretty high. Like it's expensive for sure. But I've never really looked into it. I don't really have any kind of desire to go in to make a distillery, because that would feel way too much like work for me. And I'm moving towards the end of my work life. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
See,
I
we're
mean,
in the
what?
opposite there, right?
Yeah,
I'm starting the full work life right now, right? Like in the past couple of years.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And what I do now is work, the YouTube work, and running the website Still in the Clear, and now the brew shop. It's work, but I don't know, it feels different. It doesn't quite feel like work. It just it's tiring at times, but
Yeah. But you enjoy it
so
more than you would any other.
oh yeah, for sure. For sure. This has been the most fun I've had earning a living in my entire life, for
Good
sure.
on you.
Yeah. So you want to give us a little heads up on maybe some of the videos you got coming?
Yeah, so for a bit of context, I recently moved from West Coast of Canada to East Coast of Canada for university. So I have no distillation equipment with me, which means I've been making a lot of wine. And that's kind of been the reason I haven't posted a video in about 45 days before I recently posted how to clean a fermenter. But I've got a video hopefully coming out in the next week or two of me making some wine in my dorm room, which I think is hilarious. I think it's going to be
Yeah,
a funny kind of concept where it's like making wine in a dorm.
right.
And then I've got one video planned after that. I'm just starting to make it today or maybe tomorrow. And it's going to be just like a nice little Christmas themed apple cider, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
yeah,
how to make wine in a dorm is going to blow up.
that's what I was thinking. I was thinking
Like,
either how to make wine in a dorm or I made wine in my dorm
you're
or
right.
something like that. And I've started planning out the thumbnail and stuff because I find that's honestly one of the most important parts of a video. Not even the video itself, it's the thumbnail, right?
Right, right. Yeah. So I can only imagine how many 19-year-olds are out there Googling, can I make wine in my dorm?
Well, especially in the US for you guys. Your guys' drinking age is 21 versus here
Yeah.
it's 19 or 18 depending on your province, right?
Oh,
But I
really? I
think
didn't even know that.
yeah, no, I it's pretty funny because you got like grade 12 high schoolers out in Alberta or Quebec, they can buy booze. It's which is a
Nice.
completely it's but I think the video is going to do well because I actually was researching. I was like, I haven't seen any video about somebody making wine in a dorm room. I'm like,
Right,
this is in my mind it's going to do well, but you never really know, right?
right. And the last time we talked, you were talking a little bit about the legality there of what you're doing is a little bit different than here. Like there's a little loophole you get to stand in, right?
Yeah, so well, you can make same as the US, you can make beer or wine completely legally. I don't know about making it in a dorm room. That might be a little
It might be more of a policy thing as opposed
might
to
be
a
more of a
law.
policy thing. Don't tell the RA. That's the
Right,
but the for distilling's illegal all across Canada, but there's a few little loopholes that exist. Not that you really need them. Like nobody's ever been arrested for making moonshine in Canada unless they were selling it on like big scale or they were like also making other drugs. Then it's problematic. But
yeah.
for just recreationally, there's in a few liquor policies it says that you can make it for educational purposes or if you're checking the proof of liquor, if that makes sense. So if you're like making a wine or a beer, you're allowed to distill it to see like the proper alcohol percentage, I think is why that's around. But all
Interesting.
the caveats for that are that you're still have to be under 20 liters. And my still's 50 liters, but I'm doing it for educational purposes, I guess. That's the thing with the
Right,
YouTube channels. I'm like, oh, I'm teaching other people how to distill. So realistically, I could probably get off with a misdemeanor in that way if I ever did get in trouble for it.
right,
Not that nobody ever really does. Like, I think distilling's kind of got that weird connotation where everybody's like, oh, but home distilling's illegal, but nobody really cares. Nobody's ever gone in real trouble for it.
right. Yeah, that's the way it is here too. You rarely hear about somebody who got, well, you never hear about anyone who got arrested for distilling, but you do hear of people being arrested with distilling equipment or with moonshine. But like you said, they were doing other things that got someone's attention. It wasn't the
Yeah.
distilling that got someone's attention.
It's just that nice little final charge the DA can throw on them, right?
Right, right. Some more leverage to get you to plea out.
Right? There you go.
Yeah.
Are you so but it's fully illegal in your area then as well? Is there any states that have kind of like put an exception on it?
Yeah, there are, Missouri it's been legal in Missouri forever. For each household, you can make, if I'm right, you can make 100 gallons per adult per household, up to 200 gallons per year.
Wow.
And
And
yeah,
100
that's a
gallons is a
lot.
lot. Not I was
That's a
going to say a
lot.
lot of people aren't making more than 100 gallons of distilled spirit, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's 2 gallons a week.
yeah.
That's a lot of liquor.
I'm trying to
And
think about
then
how much I made this year, but I go by liters up here, right? So I think it would have been I maybe did max 50 liters of like final product in the past like year. So
yeah,
nowhere close to that. That's like
yeah, 13 gallons,
13
12 or
gallons or
13
something
gallons.
like that. Yeah.
Well, 50 liters.
Yeah, around
Yeah,
that. I think
yeah,
you're
yeah. So yeah, it's a lot. And then I think right now there are four other states, Alaska, I want to say New Mexico, and then one of the northeastern states like Maine or something. But
yep.
anyway, yeah, there's just a handful of states where it's legal at the state level. And so,
Do you
it's
think
not
in the
that big a
next
deal.
couple of years they're gonna start coming out with some policy changes? I don't it doesn't seem like it's anything that's been on anybody's radar for the past like 80 years, right? So
Yeah. I think Ohio was trying to get something on the ballot this year. I had heard, and I don't know whatever happened with that, but it'll be a really slow process of getting that to change because, like we said, law enforcement really doesn't burn anybody for it. And so
yeah.
the people who are doing it are not really incentivized to get out there and try and change the laws. So
Yeah,
it's just,
that's what I was thinking. There's nobody in the hobby that really cares to get it made legal because
mhm.
there's no reason to, right? But I think it would be cool if there was some more organizations or groups trying to push for it, but
Yeah,
it's not necessary, right? It'd be cool to kind of
right.
see that hit the floor in like the Senate or the House of Commons, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be an interesting debate, I guess. So, and you also have this, it's moonshine, and part of the romance of moonshine is that you're a rebel. And
Yeah,
so to stand up and say, make it legal it almost goes against the grain of being a moonshiner just because of the romanticism of it. But
yeah, it's funny, but it in a way it does kind of have that like rebel against the grain attitude, but then like I know a lawyer that makes moonshine. I've heard about cops buying stills from guys that make stills, and it's like
mhm,
really it's not nobody really cares.
right.
It might as well be legal, but it doesn't need to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, people are going to. I guess there are a certain percentage of people who would like to do it that will not do it because it's illegal. Like they're just uh, stand-up, law-abiding citizens, and they're not going to break the law. But
That's a good point. Yeah, I think that is the one thing about making it legal is you might see a bigger influx of people getting into the hobby just because of that connotation, which might be for some people just a good reason to kind of look at making it legal if you're in
mhm,
the distilling atmosphere for a reason to kind of care about that. But a lot of us kind of just mind our own thing and don't really worry about what a lot of other people are doing anyways.
right. And now that I'm in the brew shop business, it does affect me because I want to put stills on the shelf.
Yeah,
And there's most brew shops when you go to them, I've heard, I haven't been to a bunch of brew shops, but I have heard people tell me like, oh, my local brew shop won't even talk to me about distilling. Like they won't even let you talk to them about it. And so,
really.
and that's all because of the law. They're afraid that if they, like, I don't know, law enforcement is going to set up some sort of sting operation to catch them talking about distilling. I don't know, but
You know,
um,
they got to watch out for those old guys making the shine, right? Like
right,
that's got to be on the top of the police radar. It's
right. But like here where I am, it's not even legal to own a still. So
Yeah.
for me to put stills on the shelf, yeah, I'm going to do it, but I think it could get me into some kind of trouble. I think it would be a slap on the wrist and a fine, and don't do that again, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
What do you think you're going to put on the shelf? You're going to do the like kind of stovetop 20 liters, or you're going to go more kind of
so I'm definitely going to do the Olympic stills, the round that you
yep,
see on Amazon,
the
because the price
classic like
point.
the
Mhm.
alchemical style, like the
Yeah,
fancy looking ones.
yeah, because those are mass produced, and so the price point for those is pretty good. It's a little more than like the Weaver style you were talking about, but I'm definitely going to put those. And I have one, and they make really good liquor for if you're into single pot still runs, that's a good one. Um, and then I'm working out some deals with some other steel builders. I don't know if you're familiar with Adam with Copper Steel Co. He's a individual that makes mm, premium stills, and in fact, we've worked out a deal where on my website I've got one of his stills for sale that comes with one of my kits, and he's got the
Oh,
same thing on
nice.
his site. So I'm gonna get some of his to put on the shelf, and then I'm in the works with a couple other things that I can't really mention yet. That they're not far enough along, but yeah, for sure.
I think that's super cool. And no, I haven't seen any brew stores that sell personally distilling equipment. It's just not something that I've seen. Anybody that wants to buy stills and stuff that's like been welded and made by other people, Facebook Marketplace is always where I've told friends that want to get into it to look,
Yeah,
or even just online. Like you can order stills off Amazon.
right.
That's to get into it, or just make it yourself. If you know a guy who welds
Hmm.
in and like you know how to get a keg, just take it to him and he can usually figure something out for you.
Yeah, like dollar for gallon, the keg is probably the best option out there, especially if you can pick
Yeah.
one up cheap. If you like here in Texas, um, you can get kegs $25.
Yeah.
Here where I live, you can't find a used keg. It's so hard to find one, and when you do, they're 80 or 100. So depending on where you are, a keg is a really good option. You know,
Absolutely. And then even there's so many guys out there that I've seen who make columns for them. And then you can just order it's gonna be like 200-300 bucks, but you can order a nice column for it and then just use propane,
yeah, there's
which
lots of
is
places
works
to.
perfectly well for a ton of people.
Right. North Georgia Steel, I think they sell like a keg column. Stillbilly sells keg columns. Um, Mile High sells keg columns. There's a lot of people that, you know, if you got a
Totally.
keg,
There's a lot of guys are out here making it really easy to get into the hobby between like your beginner for moonshine forum, right?
hmm
The like between that, all the resources out here now with social media, like I was self-taught online, right? Because it was guys like you and Stillet, and I think Barley and Hops, like
yeah,
everybody out
George.
there is George. Yeah, everybody's super willing to like kind of help get other people into the hobby, and I
hmm
think it's kind of it's a nice little community, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, man, I'm thankful you came on a second time after I messed up the first interview. So thanks for that. Thanks for giving us your time, brother. You want to say anything else before we jump off here?
Yeah, check out Big Red Moonshine on YouTube. I'm not on any social media yet, but if you give me a follow there, keep up with me, see me make some wine for the next probably about 4 months before I head back home, and I'm gonna have tons of distilling videos out kind of June to August, hopefully. Okay.
Awesome.
And Cyrus, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you bet.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. I look forward to checking out more of your videos, brother.
Perfect. Thank you, buddy.
All right, we'll talk at you later.
Catch you in the next one.